Okay, let's get started. Hi, everybody. My name is Tina Salazar. I am the Director of Operations for the Istoria project. I wanted to introduce also our other panelists, Travis Pearson, our CEO, and John Whitty, our founder and president. We'll have some time for question and answers at the end of this webinar. If you can look at your bottom toolbar, there's a Q&A chat. There's a chat and there's a Q&A option at the bottom of your toolbar. And please feel free to use that Q&A for any questions or comments you have during this time together. We have Travis and John Whitty both kind of filtering some of those questions for you, but we'll also begin some of those conversations at the end. Also, just in case, I'm not sure if the option is there for you or not, but mute your mics until we're done and we'll get this webinar started. Again, I am coming to you today with this session titled Improving Relationships During Quarantine. I know I've been affected by this season as far as routine and schedule goes. I've been affected dramatically. I'm the mother of an 11-year-old daughter and the stepmom to a 19-year-old daughter. I'm also the wife to a small business owner and a former corporate engineer who really appreciates a reasonable amount of routine in my life. Hang on one second, I'm gonna kind of put my Zoom in another position just for my own use. Okay, and as you can probably relate, this COVID-19 self-quarantine situations really had some direct implications on me. I'm finding myself in some new roles these days. For example, I'm a history teacher, which I've never been, a PE coach in our garage. I'm also kind of toying around with some IT troubleshooting with all of our technology in the house. And then not to mention, I'm just a 24-hour-a-day playmate and / sounding board person. In addition, I have to continue my regular co-parenting role and everything that comes with a split household. I am also a part business owner, which also comes with the responsibilities of having employees and kind of making decisions that affect them. I'm also within this organization helping to build strategies. And so all these things combined with this uncertain economy, along with, just the plain worry of protecting my family's health, these are really weighing on me heavily, and it's really affecting my attitude lately. I know that my family members are the ones that are actually experiencing this firsthand. In the past year that I've been studying with the Istoria team, we really dug into how personality affects people's story. And I realized that my personality, I absolutely need to have introspective time. I need some time alone. It's how I refuel. It's how I am able to be my best for those around me. I actually know that going 100 miles an hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's not good for me, and that eventually things can come crashing down and it's not really going to be pretty. That being said, I've actually not had many opportunities to refuel during this lockdown. We have time and we have actual physical limitations now that's not allowing me to get that. Maybe you can relate to that kind of struggle. So let me ask you, is there any way that this COVID-19 situation can actually turn out to be a good thing? I think maybe it can. And let me tell you why. I think it can force us to think about our lives in ways that we wouldn't have otherwise. It may also be the thing that shines a light on certain issues or problems that were actually there to begin with, but we chose either not to address, or we chose to just keep busy so that we can avoid it altogether and avoid the discomfort of it. One of the problems that really stands out to me now is, as we're locked in the parameters of our own home, our capacity for relationship has actually been challenged. So Donald Miller, he's the CEO of StoryBrand. He introduced us to the idea that our lives are organized into relational categories. One of the things that Donald Miller, his research has proven is that none of us can effectively manage more than 5 relationships at a time. So what does this mean for us during this COVID lockdown season, as we're actually having to relate to each other much differently than we had to in the past? So this is actually the premise of today's tool. In the Istoria project, we call it our roles and relationships chart. And Travis, I'm going to ask you if you can pull that up on the screen for us real quick. There you go. So this chart is actually a tool that we use to help our clients to really focus on how they can live out their purpose within the most important relationships that they're in. It's how we say we begin to live as a hero. As you can see, the first thing to do is to list your relational roles and prioritize them 1 through 5. You can do this based off the stages of your life that you're in now. So for example, maybe you're at a stage in your life where you need to focus on young children like myself, or maybe you're playing the role of caring for aging parents, or maybe you're in a role that's just getting started with your career and you're an employee. Maybe one of the most important roles that you're playing right now is that you just got married and you need to focus on being a spouse and learning who your new spouse really is. Or maybe you're single and you need to spend some time alone.
Everyone, this is Travis. I think we lost Tina. Um, give her a second to see if she can get back on. I apologize for that.
All right, everybody, this is John Whitty. Not sure what's happened to Tina. Let me just confirm that I can be heard and seen. Travis or somebody just, yes, okay. All right, good. All right, I'm not exactly sure where everybody lost Tina at, but Travis, if you can put the screen back up there just for a second, we won't leave it up very long. Let me talk to you guys about roles and relationships. So I'll just pick up a little bit further back than Tina, then we lost her. One of the things that Donald Miller through his research, helped us recognize is that you can actually only manage 5 roles in your life. So you may have all kinds of roles that you play. You may very well play more than 5 roles, but there are only 5 that you can manage at a time. And so, like for instance, one of my roles, my top role is that I'm Linda's husband. So I'm a husband. I'm also a father. I'm also the son to aging parents. I'm also a brother to my sister. I'm a colleague with Tina and Travis in our company. And then I'm a part of a hunt gang. And so I hang out with certain friends. And then I also work with some other guys that are helping me do some things. So I have a lot of different roles. But the fact is that none of us can actually manage more than 5 roles at a time. And I think, as Tina mentioned, your roles actually change all throughout your life. Travis, you can go ahead and take that down now. Your roles change all throughout your life. And so it's fine to, actually to be able to adjust and prioritize the roles that you play. So during the COVID-19 situation, one of the things that you might have noticed is that some of your roles have changed. For example, maybe you're not going to work in person like you were before. Maybe you don't have as much contact with people as you had before. And so that role of being a colleague at work might have actually been diminished in your life. It could also be that, kind of like Tina said in her situation, she is now Gianna's teacher. She's her PE coach. She's Gianna's best friend. There she is.
I'm back.
Kind of work with Ian. So anyway, Tina's roles have actually changed. That's the point that she's making. So Tina, if you're ready, I'll let you pick it up from here.
I am. I
Okay.
apologize
Right.
for that. So that's part of my IT role these days, is having to maneuver through technology. So yes, like as Whitty said, I have become a teacher, a coach, IT, but I'm also trying to manage and effectively hold up my regular work roles that I've been playing. So I would ask you if you can identify what your 5 major roles are, your 5 priority roles, and prioritize them 1 through 5, and attach names to each of those roles. So you're a spouse to who? You're a father or mother to how many kids? So you may have 3 names on there. You might want to go ahead and list some of those. You're a child to somebody, or maybe your job is one of the most important things to you right now, and you're an employee. So you might want to go ahead and list those 5. And I don't know if this was mentioned, but we are going to send out to any of the participants, we will email you this chart. So you can go ahead and do this as well. So the second column, or the center column, I want you to think about the top 1 to 3 problems that you are currently experiencing within this role. So by doing this, I feel like you may discover some hard truths if you're really honest. Does this COVID crisis have you second guessing maybe your love for your spouse? Maybe you're spending a little too much time and you're like, oh, I don't know if I really do love them like I used to. Or maybe it has you arguing over finances right now. So that's another tough one, right? So, and you probably are doubting that maybe the 2 of you can ever get on the same page with how and where to spend your money. Another experience that you may be having is feeling guilty for getting annoyed with your own kids as they constantly want to play with you while you're trying to work. Maybe you feel helpless and you're unable to physically meet the needs of somebody you really care for. Or maybe you're just plain bored. And so time apart from your everyday coworkers, like in the past, this might shed some light on the fact that you may not have much else going on for you in your life. And it's caused a little bit of maybe some disappointment, or some frustration, self-frustration, or maybe even some shame feelings. So let's be honest and write some of those problems in that center column. As we move to the third and final column, we want to explore our own contribution to these problems that we're experiencing and what we've called our most important roles. Let's think pre-COVID in this area. And so what could you have been possibly taking some of these people for granted in the past? Or maybe within the relationship, you might have been acting a little bit out of bitterness or self-protection. And maybe you've been just acting out of avoidance altogether, thinking that one day these problems will just magically just go away. And so we take a little time to review how this problem came to be. And we write down the first things that come to mind. Don't overthink this or try to rationalize it away. We really want to be honest with the problems that we're having within these relationships. And so let me give you an example from my life. And Travis, you can pull up my roles and relationships chart, and this is where it's going to get real. So my first role is wife to my husband, Ian. One of our main problems over the past few weeks with this lockdown is the struggle to balance out our workloads during quarantine. And mainly it's because my schedule has actually doubled as I've taken on the homeschool role. Just to give you a little bit of background, my husband, he not only runs a small business, but he also takes college courses. And so this means that pre-COVID, his schedule was already pretty tight. And normally I've been able to handle my role within the Istoria organization. I've been able to handle a lot of the administrative personnel side of our business, and then my daughter's school and extracurricular activities schedule. Like, no problem, I can do that. Okay, but now we have two businesses that have had to shift directions. They've had to shift gears in order to survive this season. But also the school system is constantly changing and updating their method or their curriculum, and somebody needs to stay on top of that and needs to keep our daughter in there, you know, up to speed. And so you can imagine we're both pretty overwhelmed. And so to answer the first question, my personality and my story shows patterns of how I gravitate towards controlling and trying to manage everyone and everything around me in order to keep myself from experiencing any kind of harm or any kind of risk. My husband, on the other hand, tends to act more passively under stress. And so he kind of draws inward, and he has a sense almost of withdrawal about him like it seems from the exterior. Neither one of these behaviors is 100% right or wrong, but in critical situations, they can be deal breakers. They can add to broken relationships. And so the question, and so that's how we both contribute to those issues, to that issue. And so question 2 is, how does your purpose connect to solving these problems? So here at Istoria, we believe that everyone has a purpose and that it's born from your story. We believe that when you know it and you live it out, it's living with intention, and you're actually it's actually being the guide to your decisions. And ultimately, it makes you the hero to your own story. So it's really helping to keep you focused. So to answer the second question, when I uncovered my story, well, I've been uncovering my story over the last 5 years, I've actually identified that my purpose is really to develop systems to help keep things moving. And so I'm passionate about helping people get things off the ground and figuring out how to keep those things moving over time. And so how can I apply this passion and this skill to my current situation with my husband? Well, this leads us to the third and final question. What am I going to do to use this purpose to help that issue in our relationship? And so 1 or 2 actions that I can take in our daily life, now I'm thinking COVID days, I'm going to challenge anybody who's filling out this graph to be very specific here and be engaged. Our intention is actually to help your relationships get stronger and healthier as a result of this period. So to understand my actions, you may also need to know this about my husband. He seeks companionship. It's a part of his story, and this, I know this about him, and I love and respect that this is what he brings to our family, a closeness. As we live and work and learn all around and on top of each other these days, there's no lack of closeness in my mind, but you know, proximity and nurturing, they're not the same thing. So I actually am looking towards my husband to take on new tasks that that I had to do before. And so one simple task is I've asked him to take on the responsibility of our high energy 3-year-old black lab, right? So like he takes hours out of my week walking him, and he tests my patience when he doesn't listen to me. And so I've actually had asked my husband to take this on during this time because I can't handle him, right? So asking Ian to fit this into his schedule was kind of difficult for me to do. He sluggishly began waking up about an hour earlier, and I can't say that he didn't start to feel some resentment as those first few days were raining. But catching on quickly, I decided to help get things moving, right? So I started to find my purpose. Okay, let's set up a system and a process to make this a part of our routine. So I started waking up with him. I'd have the bed made. I'd go downstairs, have coffee made and ready for him. When he came back in, I'd begin answering emails, you know, on both of our behalf. And I had paperwork printed out and ready for him to walk out the door when he ended up leaving for work. So after a while, he began to change. His mood started changing. He began to, you know, enjoy his walks and meet the other runners in our neighborhood. And every morning now we sit for coffee for at least half a cup. And before starting our busy days, we get on the same page. And it has actually helped him to feel more organized and prepared. And it's simply by just having my support and my companionship. So I'm in it with him. I'm not just giving him a task and sending him on his way and I'm living my life and we're going to 2 separate lives. My schedule actually shifted, and I am not just asking him to help me, but I'm like, how can we do this together as a team? And so in addition to this, you know, I know he also needs companionship from his friends and other husbands. So I've kind of helped him to set up Zooms along the way during the weekends. We're meeting with our friends, we're meeting with other business owners, and we're constantly engaged in support groups, friendships and circles. So I'm kind of helping get those off the ground as well. And so those are really having an effect on his confidence, on his energy level, and just his appreciation overall. And so that companionship and that team that we've created has really just helped change from bitterness or kind of overwhelmingness to we're in this together. So let me just remind you, so how it may seem backwards, but choosing to live for the benefit of someone else over your own self-preservation is actually the thing that heroes do. And this is the way that we're going to be able to live and survive through this crisis and come out on the other side better. How we use our time and energy and resources will determine if we're living in sync with our purpose. So living a life to benefit others, it really is a choice. It's not something that always comes naturally. You have to choose to do it. And it begins with the roles and the relationships that we are in and a part of right now. So how will you use your life purpose to add value and contribute to solving your relational problems? Think heroically and write those down. Are you good at listening? Can you offer this to your kids and begin to have deeper conversations? Are you good at technology or IT and you can provide some of those skills to your friends and other groups that need to learn this new way of life online? Are you good with sewing or crafts? Can you begin to make masks? Are you into healthy living? And so you're in a good position to begin maybe sharing some new recipes with family members who may not have the best health situations, and you know that you can help them in this way. Do you have a large social media gathering which allows you a different platform to communicate more positively to people who need encouragement? Who or what are you using your time, your energy, and your resources on these days? So a word of caution here is that as you work through your roles and relationships chart, you may find that you're not real clear on your own life purpose. And this is understandable. It actually, to find a true life purpose, it can be a little bit challenging, and it may need an outsider's perspective. The Istoria team actually works with individuals over several sessions to get to a life purpose. But we do believe that living a life purpose or finding a life purpose, it's unique to you, and it's only you. It comes from your story. So because of its importance, we actually are going to be focusing on purpose next week in our webinar with John Whitty. So I encourage you all to join in and tune in, and definitely share this with whoever you feel can also benefit from. And that concludes our webinar entitled Improving Relationships During Quarantine. And so I apologize for the technical difficulties early on, but I think we caught back up. And I'd like to turn this over to Travis to kind of facilitate any Q&As, that question and answer segment that we should have.
Great, thank you, Tina, very much. Guys, if you have any questions, you can type them below at the Q&A. And while we're waiting, if you have any, Whitty, you had some stuff you wanted to share as well?
Yeah, Travis, I think one of the things from watching Tina's presentation, and Tina, thank you for doing that, is very good. One thing I just wanted to clarify a little bit on the chart is the way the chart works is you prioritize your top 5 roles. So that would be the first step that everyone would do. And then in each of those roles, they identify the relationships that those roles encompass. And then in each of those relationships, you want to identify several, the top obvious problems that you know are there. And then in that final column, you're looking at what can you actually do to solve those problems. And what we're going to talk about next week, and it's how we're going to connect next week to this week, is how your purpose actually helps you solve a problem. So I've known Tina and Ian for several years now, and Tina really is an organizer. You talk about somebody who can put systems together. And so I found it so interesting, and just sort of smiling here in the background, of how her purpose kind of as an engineer, but now she's using that engineering at home, has helped her to organize not only her own life, but Gianna's life, Ian's, and even through this problem of, them trying to manage walking the dog and getting all these things done. As Tina was able to live out her purpose, what it actually did is it actually served Ian. The time that they spent together drinking coffee was significant to him, because he likes those nurturing relationships. And then having his day organized for him, and Ian feeling better about that, you can see how Tina was living out what's natural to her, and that just benefited Ian. And I know the same would be true if she were to, go to talk about her role with a mom with Gianna at home and things like that. The very same thing would be true. So Tina brought her unique purpose to bear upon those problems. And in the process of that, I'm guessing that it's also been fulfilling for Tina to actually accomplish those things. And rather than feeling like, COVID has actually limited her life, it's given her the opportunity to live it out right there within those limitations. And that's really what today's webinar is all about, how this tool can help you cope with the COVID situation. So that's just one thought that went through my mind as I was listening to Tina, and I wanted to bring that clarity. Travis, are there any specific questions that other people have, or has anything come up yet?
No other questions. I think that's because you guys Tina talked early about it. We wrapped it up. There's no other questions. Tina, I want to thank you again for doing this, and I appreciate you guys that attended. This is recorded. and we'll get you access to the recording via YouTube and also this form so that you can look at it again or send it out to other folks you think might be interested in it as well. And then we'll also get an invite to you guys out for next week with Witty doing purpose.
And Travis, will this also be on our Facebook page?
Yes, we'll get this all posted to social media and stuff like that, so you guys can have access to it and forward it on. Great. Yeah, this recording will be available. Give us about 24 hours to clean it up, and then we'll get it out there. So very good. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Tina. Great job.
No problem. Thank you, everybody. Y'all have a great week. We'll be back next week.